Hi everyone, this is Audap. Let's check out Air Buster on running on the Mega SG. Now this was actually an arcade game. I think it was published, released, or developed by Kaneko. I think in the States it was published by Sharp, I want to say, which is sort of weird to say to remember that they used to publish arcade games or build arcade games and ship them. This is also known as Aero Blasters on the TurboGrafx CD or on the TurboGrafx. This version is the closest to the arcade version. I mean, there's very little differences between this and the arcade version. Even the sound is almost exactly like the arcade. I think my problem with this is that it's a little too close to the arcade. The arcade game is a pretty well balanced game. But I think the later levels are a little bit too hectic. And again, it was designed as an arcade game. You're supposed to take credits for you, not be something that's challenging that you can complete. Whereas the Aero Blasters game, which was the conversion made for the TurboGrafx, I think that is probably the better game. But it is not exactly like the arcade game, whereas this version is. This version is the arcade game. So depending on your preference, you might like one version over the other. Personally, I think while the graphics aren't as good on the TurboGrafx, mainly because they're at a lower resolution, so they're kind of squished a little bit. I think the sound is leagues better than this version, and the overall level structure and gameplay is better. But that being said, this is really really good. So either version that you get, you're gonna have a good time. And I think this is one of those games that's sort of lost in time, where it had a very very limited audience, and it's a real shame because I think it's well designed, and I think it's fun even today. Yeah, the weird thing is that there's a little loading screen here before each level, which surprises me. I didn't think that this game had so much information that it needed to load into memory, but I guess so. Or didn't need extra time to load into memory, I should say. So you have your standard Vulcan weapon, but you can also charge it to do like a smart bomb, which doesn't destroy everything; it just destroys minor enemies. But it's really useful, and it's just a nice simple control scheme. But all the enemies are really well designed. It's super colorful. Oh god, I'm really sucking it up. And the balance is perfect. The initial levels are not super challenging, but they're challenging enough. And then the later levels, they really test you. The weapon balance is good. Every weapon that you can get, has a use, and is good for different situations. The weapon capsules appear at exactly the right time. When you need to switch a weapon, if the level calls for it. I'm gonna have to start over, boy. This is not the way that I'm supposed to be starting this game. I think it's mainly because I spent so much time playing the TurboGrafx version that this version is a little less familiar to me. Yeah, this is one of the games that I do remember in the arcade and really liking a lot. Never could beat it, so that's why I was pleasantly surprised to see the Genesis version being so close to it. But then I picked up the TurboGrafx version, and I just ended up liking that one more. I'm doing terrible. This is fun because you can disable different parts of the ship. R-type style. Or you can just go for, you know, shooting the center of it. That's not my life on the first level. That's terrible. You really shouldn't lose a life until like the third level. Yeah, I never even knew these characters existed. This is like something new. You know, that piece of art was something new that wasn't in any of the other versions. It wasn't even like on the side of the arcade cabinet. So it's sort of interesting to see it here. Yeah, like this song in the TurboGrafx version is really, really good. And here it's just like some background music. But again, you know, big sprites, you know, real complex scrolling graphics. You know, the parallax is really, really smooth. I mean, this is indicative of a lot of the Mega Drive games in the later years. You know, initially, you know, the Mega Drive games were yeah, they had some like visual issues, which worked out much later. I usually get the bumpers here. I should have got the homing missiles, but oh well, that's alright. These are good too. I can charge up my flash laser too. In fact, there are points where it's much wiser to use the flash laser. I don't know what they call it, if they call it that. It's probably just called a smart bomb. And, you know, you can't abuse it because it takes a little time to cool down before you can use it again. Oh, damn it. I get 6 credits. Let's start from the beginning. I really didn't do well in that first level. I tell you, playing on this MegaSG it's so much better than playing on an original Genesis. I mean, I hate to say that, but the original hardware, you know, the output is nowhere near this crisp. Well, I mean, especially for a modern display. You can make some kind of argument for the motion on the CRT if you're playing it on a CRT, but you know, CRTs are nowhere near as crisp either. You know, there's a certain like fuzziness to the CRT, which is just, you know, inherent in the technology. You know, and it was also a struggle to find the right tube. You know, the rather expensive tube that could clear up a lot of the artifacts. You know, in some ways, you know, CRTs, you know, they just had a natural anti-aliasing solution because the image itself was just kind of blurred together, and it was not normally that crisp. But that's not necessarily a good thing, in my opinion. You know, just having a blurry display to deal with aliasing. Yeah. Even though that's what aliasing essentially does, is it takes take those hard steps and blends them together to make them a little smoother. You know, giving you a slightly softer line. Yeah, I think this is a hard to get game too. Again, wasn't really that popular when it came out. The arcade game was very popular, but whatever reason, the home version and shmups just in general, I think we're kind of on the way out. So we didn't see the that many sales generate from it. Again, that's my recollection. I remember a lot of people talking about this game when it came out. I certainly did. I loved it. But you know me, I mean, I love shmups. So, even to this day, I love that simple design. Simple yet complex gameplay. Just like me, except for the complexity. Yeah, it's interesting to see a loading screen in a cartridge game. But it did happen. More than one game had static loading screens. I forget what the other name for this is, other than Aero Blasters. Something like mechanized something or other. And really, Kaneko hadn't released a lot of games that made it stateside, so this was rare to see a Kaneko developed game when this was released in the States. It's one of those games where I wish at some point in time there was a sequel to it. Well, that time is long past, I think. I doubt any of the original developers are even together in a team. I think it'd be kind of a hard formula to do right. Oh, I should have grabbed one of those, damn it. Oh well, I'll manage somehow. Like when we're on easy, otherwise, the screen would be full of bullets. I'd have a hard time navigating. I can only use so many of those smart charges, or there's not a numbered, not a numbered restriction, but it takes a long time to charge it back again to use it again. So you got to be real strategic on when you can apply it. Yeah, I definitely like the sound and graphics better on the TurboGrafx. Yeah, this was like especially a trip in the arcade. It's not like a real fancy trick in scrolling, but it is sort of disorienting. Yeah, now it starts getting a little more challenging. This is where you're likely to start losing your lives. At least one or two. Yeah, I really love this this color transition, because you can see yourself going into space. The blue skies or Earth, into the more more darker palettes of the exosphere. I said it's a really, really cool, well thought out game. Should have kept the 6-way shot. Oh well, that's alright. Well, we'll make it, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Ah, these things. God, I hate these things. Take a lot of shots and they run right into you. On top of all the, all the other hundreds of bullets that appear on the screen later. Gave me an option to change out your weapons there. Again, real smart. I mean, everything's placed exactly where it should be in order for you to be successful in the game. Ah. Down to the pea shooter. Oh well. There's a bummer, going down to absolutely nothing again. Especially as the game is getting harder and harder. No, like I said, it's just a really cool transition. You don't really see that a lot in games. Certainly not from this era. It gets way more aggressive the shorter it is. Thankfully, it's a time limit, so you have to destroy the whole thing. Ah. I got distracted. Trying to get rid of all the little satellites. Of course, you don't have to shoot all the satellites. And he won't go into the second form if you can manage to get him before then. Ah, son of a bitch. Alright, there we go. He's more vulnerable, but he's also harder. also like how your ship does damage on the way down, even as it's exploding. That's kind of a cool little feature. All right. Yeah, and again, I'm covering games I own, so I may not be able to cover like a vast majority of the Mega Drive, the Mega Drive collection. I mean, if there's some Genesis game that you want me to cover, I'll see if I have it. Otherwise, you know, I don't know if I'd be able to get any Genesis games now. I mean, they're outrageously expensive. You know, it used to be that only the Nintendo games were expensive. You know, so anything from the SNES to the NES. You know, but now I think people finally kind of caught on to the Genesis, and the collectors are starting to pay more attention to it. You know, before it was much easier to get Genesis games, you know, because there wasn't that level of nostalgia for it. And I'm not really sure why that was for such a long time. But now that's over. The Genesis system is no longer a system that people don't collect. I do own a fair number of Genesis games, even though it was not my favorite system. So I'll be doing this for a while, I think. Ah. Yeah, no, I see some people prefer the way this game sounds, but I really like the way the TurboGrafx version sounds. It sounds more anime. Like the sound effects sound like something more like something that you'd hear from an anime. You know, from like a Robotech or a Macross. I think that was always the intention. Whereas this one, you know, still sounds good. But it is a much different sound. Yeah, and here the controls float. You see, I'm just tapping, and my ship is still moving. You know, since we're in space, and the physics is going to work a little bit differently. Yeah, and it's like just a little touch. But it's cool. You know, the space combat actually handles different than the Earth-based combat. Ugh. Damn it, thought I could avoid that. Yeah, I don't even know who's who in that cast of characters. You never run into them. There's no cinemas involving them. Just like art they made for the backstory, which you never got to experience. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite piece of music from the whole game. Now again, I'm really looking forward to the TurboGrafx system from Analog. And I can show you these, these kind of these same games, or some of these same games that were cross-platform, just for a matter of comparison. But still got a while to wait on that. They haven't made any new announcements since they announced the hardware was being developed. Other than be out sometime this year. Who knows? Pandemic basically delays everything. So it may not be until late in the year. God damn it. It's so rough without your full complement of weapons. Just the pea shooter alone, it's really tough to get through this section. You can kind of push back on the controller, to stop your inertia if you want to make a dead stop. Because technically you're moving it in the towards the left, so then it stops your movement, going up and down and forward. Because that's a way to get around a little bit of the space physics. Oh yes, the Bubble Man, or the Bubble Bot. Yeah, look at all that. Much different story when you have your weapons at max. Much easier to manage. But you can still do it with just the pea shooter. It's just much more difficult. Obviously, I'm not handling it very well. Yeah. Yeah, the deadly bubble man. Ah. Oh. Yeah, there's a bunch of those you have to deal with too. Yeah, this is also one of the games where you run into a little bit of flicker from the object limit of the Genesis. You know, not a lot of Genesis games had flicker. At least not initially. I mean, later on, yes. when the developers got incredibly lazy. But certainly nowhere near as bad as like the original Nintendo, you know, which had a very, very limited object limit. You know, they circumvented that a little bit with those memory mapper chips that we saw in like Mega Man and Mega Man games, and like Mario 3. But still, you see its rear its ugly head pretty often. Ah, damn it. Ooh, points, points, points. Definitely a trick to this too. Ah, dang it. Yeah, now that you're inside, the you know, the inertia is back to normal. Again, there are little details which make the game really interesting. I said the design's spot on. Ah. Yeah, and normally there'd be missiles and bullets on the normal difficulty. You know, causing you grief. But we're playing on easy, because, yeah, you know, my skill level is very, very limited on the game I haven't played for, you know, over 12 years. Ah. Yeah, what a cool boss. Oh, you know, I thought there were 8 levels in this game. I didn't realize there was only 6. Was that the same on the TurboGrafx? I guess we'll find out later in the year. Boy, I can't believe I actually finished one of these games. So far, we haven't finished a single game on the Genesis since I started doing this last week, so I'm happy that we actually got to the end of something. But yeah, that was Air Buster, otherwise known as Aero Blasters. I still think this is a really good version of the game. I just think that the TurboGrafx version is better. That's all. But you know, if you can play either version and own either version, you're not really missing out. They're both really well designed games, real fun to play. You know, they feature 2-player play as well. You know, all the art and the sound. I think they've stood the test of time. I do wish there was another game in the series. Would have been nice to see something, or to have this series, you know, keep going on. But you know, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out for this game. Not a fault of the game at all. Just circumstances just didn't allow it to be as memorable as some other series. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.